a joint event presented by EuroCham Indonesia and Southeast Asia IP SME Helpdesk, an initiative of European Commission. Before we begin, ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Maximilian Dennis from EuroCham Indonesia, and I will be your host for today. To ensure a smooth and engaging session, please take note of the following webinar guidelines. First, all participants will be muted during the session. If you have any questions, kindly use the Q&A function. The moderator may invite you to unmute during the Q&A session. Second, for the Q&A session, please submit your question using the Q&A feature where questions will be addressed during the designated Q&A segment. And third, please note that the webinar is being recorded and the presentation material will be shared with registered participants after the event. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to be joined today by five distinguished speakers and who will share insights into the current regulations and practices regarding AI utilization in Indonesia. Our first keynote speaker is Bapak Boni Pudjianto, PhD Head of the Agency for Human Resource Development, Ministry of Communications and Digital Affairs. Our second keynote speaker is Sander Happaerts, Green and Digital Advisor at the EU Delegation to Indonesia, Brunei Darussalam and ASEAN. The panel discussion will feature Bapak Wahyudi Djafar, Executive Director at the Institute for Policy Research and Advocacy, and Dr. Guan Tien, Business Vice President of Digital Solutions, Schneider Electric, and Nick Redfearn, Southeast Asia IP Expert at the IP SME Helpdesk. This session will be moderated by Chow, Deputy Head of the ICTIP Working Group and Principal at Rouse, Indonesia. Now, I would like to welcome Mr. Jorgen Enger Fjellin, Head of the EuroCham Information and Communications Technology and Intellectual Property Working Group, Managing Director of Baizini, Indonesia, to give his opening remarks. Mr. Jorgen, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Maximilian. Good morning, everyone, or afternoon, depending on where in the world you're sitting. On behalf of EuroCham and myself, I would like to thank you so much for joining us here for this EuroCham and Southeast Asia IP SME Helpdesk webinar on AI and innovation, harmonizing global and local perspectives. It's a pleasure to see so many experts and practitioners here today. We are at a quite unique moment in time where technology, especially artificial intelligence, is changing our industries and daily lives. The change is rapid, and governments around the world are trying their best to keep up with relevant rules and regulations to protect our ideas while still encouraging innovation. Some countries have started this work to create frameworks that protects individual rights and balance innovation with safety. For example, the EU is setting clear rules for the AI that aim to build trust and ensure accountability. These rules are not just about control, they're about creating a safe space for businesses and individuals to innovate. The EU has been early adapters of regulations before, like with the GDPR regulations. And by looking to the EU, we can review and learn from their experience and possibly adopt some of the best practices. Here in Indonesia, policymakers are also looking at these global examples as they shape local rules. In today's discussions, we will talk about how Indonesia's efforts align with or differ from international practices. And this is important because it will help us to understand how the local policies can support innovation while protecting the intellectual property. For small and medium enterprises and everyone around involved in intellectual property, understanding these changes is vital. Clear and fair rules help protect their ideas and encourage growth. Hopefully, our conversation today can help to bridge the gap between global trends and local needs, offering practical insights and some food for thought. I will let the moderator has already introduced our panelists for today, But I would like to thank each and every one of you, our panelists, for taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here and discuss with us. So let's use this opportunity to learn from each other and work together towards a future where innovation thrives and intellectual property is well protected. Thank you so much and happy discussions to you all. Back to you, Maximilian.
Thank you, Mr. Jorgen, for your remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would like to invite Bapak Boni Pudjianto to deliver the keynote address. Dr. Boni Pudjianto is the head of the Agency for Human Resource Development at the Ministry of Communication and Digital Affairs of Indonesia. With a distinguished career spanning over 2 decades, he has held key leadership roles in digital economy development, ICT empowerment, and creative industry promotion. Previously, he served as the Director of Digital Economy and Director for Informatics Empowerment at the Ministry of Communication and Informatics, as well as the head of the Center for Data and Information at the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy. Bapak Boni, the screen is yours.
Okay, thank you so much. Just, I would like to check, is it clear, audible? Okay, thank you. So, I would like to ask my assistant to share the presentation. Okay. Okay. Before I begin, so good morning, good afternoon, because it depends on your location. And for most of all, distinguished stakeholders from various industry, academia, and international partners, it is truly an honor for me today at the EuroCham and Southeast Asia IP SME Helpdesk. So this webinar hopefully will discuss a critical and dynamic theme of the artificial intelligence, the most promising technology nowadays, particularly on the innovation, harmonizing global and local perspective. Maybe before I begin, there's a huge challenge on the artificial intelligence because many countries try to utilize AI as one of the key tools, or sometimes they call it like a game changer of their economy. At the same time, Indonesia also looked that AI maybe will contribute significantly to our economic growth. We have a kind of a projection that our economic growth should be reached 8%. But nowadays it's around 5 to 6. But this is a huge challenge, how to utilize or contribution of the artificial intelligence to our economy. At the same time, from the perspective of digital economy, now digital economy contribution to the GDP is around 5 or 6%. It's also around 5 or 6%. But we have a goals in 2045 that our contribution from economy digital to our GDP will reach 20.7%. Even though this is quite a long journey, but the contribution from digital sector will increase quite high. So by discussing today, we try to explore how the AI itself will evolve in Indonesia, and then how the government navigates the opportunity, challenge of AI in the implementation, and the most important thing, creating a new economic growth. And last but not least, what about the strategy in place to ensure that AI is utilized ethically securely, and giving benefit to both society and industry. So let me start from this next slide, please. I'm working for the BPSDM, ComDG. This is the Agency for Human Resources Development, but particularly under the Ministry of Communication and Digital. But we focusing on how creating the digital talent in Indonesia. So Ministry of Communication and Digital has developed several strategic programs under our institution dedicated to enhance digital talent development and then leadership for Indonesian people. This program also aims to cultivate the highly skilled labor workforce and also leaders who can drive the nation digital transformation. And therefore, we have to emphasize several key initiatives to achieve our goals. We have 8 programs. This is a major program that is handled by our institution. First is Digital Talent Scholarship. This is a large-scale initiative designed to equip Indonesian individual citizens with critical digital skills. So this year, this program tried to achieve 100,000 participants across different levels and disciplines. So hopefully this DTS program will give an impactful to our society. Let me give you an example. There is some data about the previous program during 2020 until 2024. We have successfully graduated around 511,000 successful participants. Secondly, there is a Digital Leadership Academy on the left side. So this is particularly for strengthening leadership. This is dedicated for top leaders. So we're selecting around 500 top leaders. This is including first rank officer, second rank officer, regional head, OPD head. This is like an agency in the local government, as well as C-level executive from private sector. But we also include military and police personnel. So up to 2024, we already delivered 1,400 participants across country. So it's a good program because to tackle the problem from the top leaders, because the decision made by leaders and the direction should be led by the leaders. And then we also have, if you look at the, we have a school, we call it Polytechnic Digital Jogja. This is vocational program led by our ministry. This school, we call it Polytechnic, is pursue for the bachelor and master degree in digital related field. This is to foster the next generation of IT professional and also ensuring like a strong fundamental of digital literacy and innovation. And then there is also ComInfo Master Degree Scholarship. This is provided by our institution. This is fully funded Master Degree Scholarship, both domestically and internationally. It is almost 300 individuals has been selected. This is in order to enhance the ICT capability in Indonesia because so many gap between the industry and the supply of human resources in Indonesia. We have also another goals, which is we have to fulfill the gap between market and supply. Market means industrial company and many startup or entrepreneurship company who needs the digital talent. We have a goal to fulfill the needs of market digital talent, 600,000 talents every year. This is combination, both from government and private university or private school. Fifth is a deploy platform. Deploy is a kind of a services about career hub for DTS graduate and then facilitating job offers, internship, as well as industrial collaboration. This is also like a bridge between industry and the supply of talent. Six is Digital Society Index. This is how to measure our achievement, whether beyond or above our plan. And there is also a Digital Talent Center. This is to support regional digital education. So we have 9 locations throughout Indonesia. This is to provide digital skill training and fostering the innovation at the grassroots level. Lastly, is digital literacy program. This is a basic knowledge about literacy of digital. There are 4 major pillars on the digital literacy. It's about digital skill, digital ethics, digital culture, and digital safety. This is a basic fundamental that should be known by all the people. And then next slide, please. This is the overview. We produce a platform so everybody can download it from the apps, whether it is App Store or Play Store, and then you can install depending on your mobile phone. So please take some animation from this next slide. Okay, this is from the digital application, and then the next is in the middle is deploy platform. The beginning is about information training, schedules, and digital courses, the left side. The middle side, deploy, dedicated to give the opportunity to connect between the DTS graduate people and then the opportunity internship, industrial collaboration. And the last part is learning management system. This is to provide courses. So everybody can learn individually from this platform. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is the biggest challenge. We have several data. So artificial intelligence has become a key catalyst for digital transformation across various sectors. Indonesia also, we consider this because AI is projected to contribute about 13 trillion US dollar in the World Economic Analysis by McKinsey, and Indonesia expected to gain some economic value from the AI. So if you look at the middle, Indonesia predicted we can gain 366 billion US dollar from the AI contribution to our GDP. And if you look at the statistic at this 22.1% of Indonesian workers already utilize AI in their daily job. 62% companies in Indonesia have a potential adoption to AI, and AI support 56 for customer service, 51 to the cybersecurity, and etc. So this has already been part of our daily activities. Next slide, please. So what is the contribution from the Ministry of Communication and Digital to the AI ecosystem? So our institution play a pivotal role for overseeing the use of AI through some forward-looking. This is like hybrid approach. which is combination of like a horizontal and vertical approach. This is to provide like a AI governance. So from horizontal perspective, there are several laws and regulations that need to be addressed, such as we already have a basic law for AI, which is previously covered on the law number 11 of 2008. This is Information and Transaction Electronic, including the amendments. And then including law number 27, 2022. This is quite new, 2 years ago, about personal data protection, because AI very close, and precisely you have to protect from utilizing personal data protection without giving some concern from individual person. And then we produce what we call circular letter on AI ethics. This circular AI ethics has been enacted 2023 actually, yeah. And then this is have some specific content from the definition of artificial intelligence, general guide, value and ethics, and then also responsibilities in the utilization and development of AI. So furthermore, from vertical point of view, formulation of policy have based on the sectoral aspect. This is mostly on sectoral aspect, economy sector, health sector, education, and many more. So come DG, we try to blend the vertical approach and horizontal approach to be suitable, that AI will deploy ethically, securely, and responsibly. So there is some very important note when we utilize AI, because AI is not just a tool. There is a special message addressed during the G7 summit. There is a note about artificial intelligence as follows. Leaders must take the lead in making human-centric AI. Why? Because human decision always remain made by human and not the machine. That is the our message for opening speech. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bapak Boni, for the keynote address. Ladies and gentlemen, next, I would like to invite Mr. Sander Happaerts to deliver his keynote address. Sander Happaerts is the Green and Digital Counselor at the EU Delegation to Indonesia and Brunei Darussalam and the EU Mission to ASEAN. He is responsible for climate action, the environment, and the digital economy. Between 2014 and 2024, Sander worked at the European Commission's Directorate General for Regional and Urban Policy. Mr. Sander, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much, Maximilian, and thank you to all those who are online. I'm very happy to speak today at this webinar because while we are speaking, there is, of course, the AI Action Summit taking place in Paris. So this webinar is very, very timely, and I'm happy to spend a few minutes speaking about the European approach to AI. And in fact, the European approach to the digital economy in general, it's one that puts people first. So not tech companies first, not the state first, but people first. And I'm very happy that Pak Boni already also referred to this human-centric approach. And in fact, Minister Hafid yesterday, if I read correctly, said in Paris the same thing. So I think the EU and Indonesia really have very, very similar views on this. So it's very good that we have this conversation. When it comes to AI in Europe, we really want to address three objectives. One is to build trust. That means that we would like to create transparency around AI so that people in Europe can trust the AI that we use in Europe. A second objective is to protect people, basically the consumers of AI, because we approach AI as a product that we want to make safe. So we do the same in Europe for food that we eat or for cars that we drive. We want to make sure that when people buy something in Europe, that they can trust that it is safe. But the third objective, also very important, is to allow innovation. And I hope that the panel today also addresses this question, because we really want to make Europe the AI continent. And we would like to, even though while regulating AI, we would like to still allow innovation in AI, but innovation also needs legal certainty, and that is why regulation is important. So let me talk a bit about the AI Act. So that's Europe's law on artificial intelligence, and it's the world's first law on artificial intelligence. And the most important element of this AI Act is the risk-based approach. So basically, we categorize four different types of risk when it comes to AI and AI applications. And when people want to put AI on the market, or a product that uses AI on the market in Europe, they need to, companies need to basically identify in which category of risk they fall. So the large majority of products will fall under the minimal risk or no risk category. That is basically, if I can give a few examples, when you use AI to organize photos on your phone, AI in video games, predictive maintenance of all kinds of things in companies, that would all fall under the minimal risk category. So if you check that your application falls under this category, you are not covered by the provisions of the AI Act. So that is very, very clear first point, and that would apply to the majority of AI applications. But the second category is where we see transparency risks. And that could be, for instance, when there is an element of impersonation taking place. So for instance, talking to a chatbot or writing to a chatbot, or almost all applications of generative AI. So AI that generates texts or photos or videos, deep fakes, all of these can have a transparency risk. And the AI Act in that case does not want to limit or prohibit such applications, but there will be transparency requirements, basically showing to the user that this is AI generated, that you're talking to a chatbot instead of a person. And this transparency is very important also in the long run, because it will allow people to really see the difference between a real person and something that is generated by a person or generated by AI. But it is not about prohibiting it, it's just about transparency. Then the third category is what we call the high risk category. There, basically, the main question that we need to ask is whether there could be any impact on fundamental rights or on safety. So this could be, for instance, when AI is used as a measure in recruitment or in schooling, where there could be a risk of discrimination, for instance, or it could also be when AI is used in products like cars or robots, where there can really be a physical risk. So in this high risk category, there we will have quality requirements. And this means that innovators, operators, companies really need to first take a couple of steps to mitigate the risks that exist before they can be allowed on the EU market. And they will also have certain requirements to share info with the European Commission. So this is for this high risk category that will be a relatively limited proportion of AI applications. And the fourth category is what we call the unacceptable risk. This is where fundamental rights, for instance, are in any case at stake. For instance, when you would use AI for social scoring, and that will be prohibited in Europe. So this fourth category of unacceptable risk will be not allowed. So where are we now? The AI Act is already in force since the 1st of August 2024. And in fact, the first provisions of the AI Act have started to apply last week on the 2nd of February. And that includes, for instance, this fourth category, the prohibitions. So they are already in force. The unacceptable risks are already prohibited in Europe since last week. Guidelines are also available on this if you need more info. What are some of the next steps? The new European Commission that took office 1st of December on many fields, but also on digital economy, will really focus on the implementation of the legislation that we already have, but also on the competitiveness of European companies. And this is why a couple of initiatives are expected to help in this sense. So there will be an Apply AI strategy that will be a new strategy to boost the industrial uses of AI and improve the delivery of public services. There will be an AI factories initiative to ensure access to tailored supercomputing capacities for AI startups and industry. As I said, we want to make Europe the AI continent. And there will also be an EU Cloud and AI Development Act, and this will be to increase the computational capacity in Europe and also make it available to SMEs. Now, I'm finalizing our engagement here in Jakarta. I think it's important to also stress that we are very, very open to exchange with Indonesia, including on the issues that were presented by Pak Boni today. So on the talent, for instance, or if Komdigi is interested in the EU approach, we are very open to having more exchanges with Indonesia on this. But we are also working with ASEAN on the digital economy and on AI. It is part of our ongoing work plan with the ASEAN digital ministers. And in this context, we will, for instance, organize a workshop on AI before the summer. And so if you are interested in these, feel free to reach out to me whenever you want. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Sander, for your insightful presentation. Now, before we begin the panel discussion, let me introduce our moderator, Chow, Deputy Head of the ICTIP Working Group and Principal at Rouse, Indonesia. He is also a Southeast Asia IP expert at the SME Helpdesk. As for now, I'm handing over the floor to you, Kinwa.
Thank you very much, Dennis. So I think it's very exciting today to have three very well qualified panel speakers to talk about how they deal with AI, how it impacts, how the regulations will impact the development of AI. So it's interesting to see what we can learn from this various model and their relevance to Indonesia. I hope I'm forgiven for saying that there's no single legal model that's conducive for AI development because there are so many models out there. So it'd be interesting to hear what the speakers have to share. The first speaker that I would like to introduce is Pak Wahyudi Djafar. He's the Executive Director of ELSAM. ELSAM is a civil society group. In English, is called the Institute of Policy Research and Advocacy. It is a civil society that was set up since 1993, and its focus is on looking into issues that impact the society. Pak Wahyudi's specialty is in IT-related governance. So his focus is on data privacy and on cybersecurity. He holds a law degree from Gajah Mada University and a master's degree from UI, University of Indonesia. Pak Wahyudi, the speaker is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Kim. Good afternoon, everyone, distinguished speakers and participants. First of all, I would like to thank you for the opportunity given by EuroCham to be involved in these discussions to talk about the AI development, especially in Indonesia. Thanks for having me. So to talk about the direction of AI development and regulations in Indonesia as guidelines, I think yeah, I will more explain about that how the process of the development of the governance of AI in here. And I will share my presentation. Yeah. So if we refer to the vision and mission document of the President-elect Prabowo Subianto, the document specifically mentions that AI disruptions is one of the strategic challenges of the Indonesian nations 2024 until 2029. Along with climate change issues, the threat of the new pandemics, global economic slowdown, demographics, the South China Sea conflict, the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and population challenge. However, in the document, AI is only generally described as a future disruption that will change talent needs across all industries. Without explaining how much disruption AI will effect to the Indonesian's economic growth, to the Indonesian's development, and so on. It also does not explain the various opportunities that might arise from this technological transformation and how the risk mitigation, safeguard, and development interventions framework will be carried out by the Indonesian government in anticipation of AI disruption. Today, we all understand that AI has transformed into one of the world's future development megatrends. And it is also part of the political slogans in Indonesia, and is predicted to become one of the engines of rapid economic growth that exceeds the changing patterns of previous technological and industrial revolutions. Economically, ELSAM study with Access Partnership shows the potential exponential economic impact by generative AI in Indonesia, which reached more than 243.5 billion US dollar. It is equivalent to 3,938 trillion rupiah, or 1/5 of Indonesia's GDP in 2022. This value might increase if many sectors in Indonesia intensify their use of AI in the calculation and release in another research conducted by Compass. It even mentioned the impact of economics value of the application of AI in Indonesia, reaching more than 5,299 trillion rupiah. AI is also predicted to impact at least 17 business sectors in Indonesia, with the highest impact on the communication sectors and the lowest impact of the AI. It is in the fishery sector. In its development today, ranging from the research industry, defense and security, public services, health, smart city, and disasters, also food security and marine, also adopting of AI. At least more than 14% of companies have adopted AI in Indonesia now. Furthermore, AI also has the potential to transform government as tool that can deliver the public services, personalize the services, including improve the efficiency of the back-end process, strengthen policy compliance, and assist in identifying fraud. With careful execution, AI can help the government to deliver services faster and more customize the needs of beneficiaries. Then, how is the readiness of Indonesian regulatory ecosystem to respond to these developments of AI? Indonesia itself does not yet have regulations that specifically regulates of AI. Generally, AI regulations in Indonesia still revolves to the several regulations, as mentioned by Pak Boni previously, such as of the Electronic Information and Transaction Law, Government Regulation Number 71, 2019, on the implementation of information system and electronic transactions, and also the Personal Data Protection Law 2022, one of which regulates automatic data processing. In addition, the overall development of AI technology highly depend on the availability of big data, both structured and unstructured data, including the personal data. But we still have the obstacle to implementing of the compliance of the standard of the data protection until now. In the regulatory context of the ITA law, AI can be equated with electronic system in general, which includes a whole series of electronic device and procedures used of certain purpose. While emphasizing its automations, AI systems can also be equated with electronic agents, which means a device of an electronic system that are made to perform an action on certain electronic information automatically, organized by a person. The views placed on the legal effect and liabilities of AI are imposed on the AI device provider or deployer. Later in its development, previously also mentioned by Pak Boni, realizing the AI has ethical, social, and legal complexity. On 19 December 2023, the Ministry of Communication and Informatics, Kominfo, at the time, issued the circular letter on the ethics of artificial intelligence. The issuance of this circular is the first step in developing of AI governance in Indonesia. The ethical principles in the circular accommodate a number of the elements or principles, which include inclusiveness, humanity, security, accessibility, transparency, credibility, and accountability, protection of personal data, sustainable development, and environment, including the intellectual property, because it is also debating by the several community, especially on the impact of the generative AI in the providing and creating of the new content based on data and based on the several content. In addition to the above policies and regulation, the development and utilizations of AI is also closely related to direction of the digital transformation of the government services within the framework of the development of electronic-based government system and cybersecurity also. Indonesia developed of the several regulations on electronic-based government system, including development of the national data centers with the goals to develop of AI as the ultimate goals of the electronic-based government system. In the presidential regulation stated that the use of AI in electronic-based government system has the potential to assist the government in reducing administrative burdens such as answering questions, filling out a document, searching for document, translating voice, writing, and drafting a document. And in the terms of public services, AI can help solve the complex problems such as social, health, and financial transaction. And the area of the cybersecurity, the government also provide of the several regulations, including the presidential regulation on the national cyber security strategy. What is the direction of AI governance development in Indonesia? Conceptually, there are at least three approaches in developing of AI governance based on technology, ethical, and legal approach. The technological approach has been widely implemented through the technology standardizations and certification schemes, including through ISO standards. It is also developed in EU and other countries. The ethical approach is so soft law that is expected to be a reference for AI developers and users in the development and utilization of AI. And in Indonesia already has one. And the legal approach, on the other hand, proposes the establishment of the special law governing of AI, as being developed in EU, for example, and South Korea, the last. However, the EU and South Korea certainly have long experience in developing technology regulation, including the implementation of mature data protection laws as a basis for developing of AI regulations. Meanwhile, in Indonesia has yet to gain experience and practice in the implementation of personal data protection law, which shall have all compliance standard in place since 17 October 2024. So responding to this, in my mind, Indonesia currently need a trajectory that can serve as a roadmap for the utilization and development of AI in the future. This trajectory is needed so that the development of AI can have a more significant impact on the digital economic growth while minimizing the negative risks of AI technology. So in the developing the trajectory, the technocratic document like of the Indonesian's long-term development plan, mid-term development plan, as well as the vision and the mission of the President-elect 2024-2029 can be initial reference to see direction of AI optimization as one of the mega trends of global change. Despite quick and general observations, this planning document do not yet provide a comprehensive reading, a measurable and systematic plan and governance framework in dealing with the AI development. And this is also linear with the Indonesian's government accession plan to become as a member of the OECD, as referring to the roadmap for the OECD accession process of Indonesia document. One of the things that the government needs to prepare a relation to the Digital Policy Committee is the obligation to implement effective policies that development, absorption, and responsible use of the digital technology, especially related to reliable AI system. So in the end, a more comprehensive framework and trajectory is needed from various sides and dimensions so that Indonesia can harvest the opportunity of AI in the future, including the development of its governance. And Indonesia can learn from the pacing of governance development undertaken by both the EU and South Korea by starting with the technology approach, ethics, and then legally binding regulations, which record the plan of Indonesian government to issue a presidential regulation on AI. So in addition, the regulatory scheme and substance can also learn from the regulatory format and models developed by EU, for example, by adopting the risk-based approach and differentiating the liability of developers and deployers based on their respective risks. This process will be a long endeavor that must involve a wide range of stakeholders in the process of the discussion and development of the regulation. So I will stop here. Sorry for some time for the explain the presentation, and we can continue the discussion later. Thank you and good afternoon.
Thank you very much, Pak Wahyudi. The next speaker is Dr. Tan. Dr. Tan holds an impressive list of credentials. His doctorate is in PhD in chemical engineering. He is also as a bachelor in mechanical engineering. He's the VP at Schneider Electric for digital business. He's a leader in the field of sustainability-focused digital transformation. And Schneider Electric is a leader in energy management and digital automation. So I think it's interesting to hear what Dr. Tan has to share about the use of AI and how it impacts the regulation. Dr. Tan, the mic is yours.
Well, thank you. Can everybody hear me loud and clear? Okay, can you share the slide, please? Okay, selamat siang, good afternoon, and good morning if you are, depending on locations. To the distinguished speakers, guests, panelists, ladies and gentlemen. So first of all, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting us to this event to share Schneider's experience in leveraging AI in the industry setting. So next slide, please. So at Schneider, we believe in the transformative potential of artificial intelligence and data science, right? So we heavily invest in AI, in data science, and today's we have our AI hub span across globally in China, in India, France, and the United States. And overall, we have about 350 AI specialists focusing on AI technology and also helping our clients to address some of their business challenges through AI technology. And not only that, we're also leveraging our own ecosystems and also our partners and IoT platforms such as EcoStruxures to help clients to address some of the challenges that they may have. Now, up to this point, we have heard some of the distinguished speakers, panelists, talking about AI from policy, from talents, from a human-centric perspective. So in these short discussions, I would like to bring you from another angle, from technology. Okay, so if you may flip to the next slide. So what I want to share with you is how at Schneider we are leveraging generative AI and combined with some of the technology such as the open automations technology, or some of you probably familiar with IEC 61499. So with this, basically what we do is to leverage the power of AI, and by merely giving some of the requirements of the processes, for example, and have the generative AI work hand in hand very closely with the automations programming platforms to automatically design or configure the controllers, for example, right? And also at the meantime to make sure that the functionality is correct, and also to make sure that the best practices and also the best equipment performance are assured, right? So this is one of the examples how we leverage technology, right, in our own facility, in our own setting, in helping our clients. And typically what we found by leveraging this, we can see like a substantial saving in terms of engineering hours. For example, in some cases, it can be like helping us to save like about 30% of the engineering cost, for example, and also shorten the turnaround time as well. So that, what does that mean? That also means, to shorten the time to market as well. And the next example, next slide, please. The next example is how we use AI technology to actually helping the desalination plant, right, in minimizing chemical dosage, for example, and improve the overall performance, and at the same time, how to minimize the energy consumption, right? So in this case, not only guarantee the efficiency and also the profitability, we also help to reduce the reverse osmosis membrane fouling in this case, and it also minimize the risk of equipment corrosions through optimum chemical dosage optimizations. So in this case as well, the chemical reductions that we found is about 4 to 7%, and when this translates into monetary term, that is about 150 to 300,000 euro per year. And next slide, please. And of course, at Schneider, we are not stopping here, right? So from this, what you can see is that AI technology has been deployed, at different industries, working very closely with our clients, with our partners. For example, we use AIs in helping, to automatically detect the fault locations, for example, in the electric, the networks, right? Or looking into AIs, leveraging the power of AI for the visual inspections, the quality inspections, or in some other case, we use that in agriculture to help in doing the high speed screening on grape sorting, for example. And there are many more, right? But since we are talking about now how to ensure sustainability, right, or how we make sure that the digital transformation is sustainable. So let me share some statistics in the next slide. So what you see here basically is that from our own study, we found that because of AI, right, the power consumption growth due to AI is going to be about 4.2 times, right, from 2023 to 2028. So meaning there is a substantial energy consumptions increase. On the other hand, when we look at now, if we are doing a simple Google query, right, as compared to if we are asking the same thing but through ChatGPT, for example, and what we found, the energy consumption is about 10 times more, right? And that brings another questions, or another factors into the equations. And yes, that is sustainability. Next slide, please. So when we look into this, right, of course, from industry setting perspective, we can leverage AI for sustainability. For example, right, we can leverage AI to reduce environmental footprint. For example, optimizing energy usage for building data centers or extending lifetime of an asset, optimize materials usage and recycling, do more with less. But at the meantime, as what I mentioned just now, right, there is actually another side of the equation, which is the AI normally also is a power hunger machine, right? So we need to use that really carefully. So when we embark on any energy, AI initiative, this is something that we are looking into. For example, right, is the choice of AI models, the techniques correct, right? And how we make sure that, we are using the right models so that, we are use that technology efficiently, right? So on the right-hand side actually shows, like with different choice of model, choice of approach, what are the impacts to the sustainability. And next slide, please. So at Schneider, when we embark AI technology or deployment together with our clients, so we actually take a very structured approach. Like for example, right, we assess, whether, what are the intended use, the purpose of using this. Do we have the right data, right input? What are the choice of AI models? And what are the expected output, right? And then we go into carefully look across, like what Sander mentioned just now, about the classifications from EU AI Act perspective, right? Does that pose high risk or low risk, right? Or even, it is prohibitive, right? And then we need to strike a balance, right? Between technology, between sustainability, and of course, most importantly, right? How, the interactions between the humans and the system. So next slide, please. So at Schneider, what sets us apart, especially when it comes to digital transformations leveraging AI technology? We have extensive experience in automations as well as energy management. We have quite a substantial skilled workforce span across the world, many proven success story, right? And proven value. And of course, we are looking into a long-term partnership and long-term reliability. And with this, next slide, please. If you're interested in finding out finding out more about AI at Schneider, feel free to visit our website at schneider.com, se.com/AI. With this, I would like to end my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tan. The next speaker is Nick Redfearn. He first qualified from the UK as a lawyer, but he spent the last 25 years in Asia, especially in Southeast Asia, in Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, and Hong Kong. He's widely recognized in the industry as the leader in IP protection. He advises MNCs, governments such as the EU IPO and the UK IPO on policies matter. And he's also passionate in advising startup in their journey to go big. The mic is yours, Nick.
Great, thank you, Kimwa. Thank you to all my fellow speakers. And I suppose what I also have to say is welcome to all of the audience. And I can also see a number of AI tools in the audience. So welcome to our AI audience as well, which is probably symptomatic of the future of these kind of seminars. Let me just share, there we go, slides are up. So I'm going to talk about some of the intellectual property and particularly copyright issues. So next slide, please. You can continue the next few slides. I'm an advisor to the Southeast Asia Intellectual Property Helpdesk, and these next couple of slides just explain what the Helpdesk does, the services it provides, and the website and so on. You can see this on the screen, and the one-to-one consultation system, which allows you to consult with an IP advisor. Next slide, please. So I'll talk today a little bit about the intersections between intellectual property and AI, particularly looking at the Southeast Asian concept and what's happening more widely across Asia. Because there are not a lot of laws in place and not a lot of examples, I'll start with a bit of background and then come into some of the most common examples that we've already seen around the world and how it might play out in Southeast Asia. Next slide, please. I think when you're talking about this region, we also have to look at the ASEAN sort of background, and there are a number of documents already produced by ASEAN which help to frame some of the AI issues that will be seen across the region. So you can see a list of some of those there. Next slide, please. And of course, at national level, there are also a large number of policies, plans in place. You've heard about some of Indonesia's ones. Singapore's got a very large number of documents setting out policies at ministerial level and in relation to AI in different forms. And there are national IP strategies across the region. Beyond the strategies, there are also a number of countries with ethics guidelines, promotion of use and how to do that. And so you can see a summary of those. There are quite a lot of different plans and policies in place. And that's really starting to set the framework for how regulation can be structured. Next slide, please. Now, across the region, we're starting to see AI appear in numerous forms. There are chip production, there are data centers, there are a number of larger companies that have announced AI, Southeast Asian companies that have announced AI tools, powering some of the products that we see on a daily basis. And governments obviously want to participate at the R&D level. So you can start to see an example here in the Philippines, a National Center for AI Research is being proposed. So you can start to see now the corporate and the government deployment of AI is really starting to take effect. Next slide, please. But it's very early yet in terms of AI regulation. Not much has been regulated yet. Many countries have plans to regulate it. I've seen a number of intellectual property offices around the region running studies on AI, plans to amend the copyright laws across the region. Indonesia is one that's discussed it. So it's quite common now that the discussion process is underway. Very few countries have actually issued any concrete rules yet. But let me talk a little bit about Singapore because there are some examples there. So Singapore's copyright law was amended several years ago. Singapore was very, very advanced in planning this. And what they did is they created something called a computational data analysis exception. What does that mean? Well, it refers to the process of training LLMs. And it was particularly aimed at the data center industry. And the reason that this was put in place was because when you train an LLM, you use enormous amounts of data, typically from the internet. The question is that use of data and is that use of content and other works, is that somehow using, reproducing, or otherwise infringing the copyright works during the course of training the LLMs? Now, that was the basis of the reason for Singapore doing this. So effectively, they put in place this exception, which says that training LLMs in Singapore is not copyright infringement. What that did, it encouraged people to come to Singapore, to invest in Singapore, and essentially run LLM training processes there. There are limits to it. It's not an absolute blanket exception. The works need to be lawfully accessed, and it's limited to only things that take place in Singapore. And there's a lot more that I could talk about, which would sort of suggest where those limits might work. For example, if you just scrape data from the internet, often you'll find terms or restrictions on scraping. So then there's a question whether there's been a breach of those terms. So there's a lot of things that yet could be taken out from that to be decided in courts. But the basic principle that Singapore has established is that training LLMs is not in copyright infringement, and that enables companies to run their data centers there and train LLMs without fear of litigation. That litigation is going on elsewhere in the world, as you'll see in a minute. It's going on in the US and elsewhere. So that's one of the key areas. We'll talk a bit more about other key areas, but let me also talk about fair use. So fair use is a defense to copyright infringement in copyright laws. It's sometimes called fair dealing, but fair use or fair dealing, it means broadly the same thing. It's not yet regulated, but a lot of the practical interpretation of fair use happens in the courts. And so the courts of Singapore are common law, because Singapore is a common law jurisdiction like Malaysia, like Australia, UK, and so on. It's likely that the courts around the world are going to be able to interpret fair use, and they'll be able to cross-reference these decisions. What we have seen is Singapore's principle on when law is not clear and needs some interpretation. They will lean towards supporting technological development. You can see this is a business investment friendly approach. So rather than lean in favor of protecting copyright or protecting a copyright owner, they will lean towards investment in technology advancement. So I think that's kind of an interesting approach. You can see very much Singapore has now had several years. The Singapore Copyright Amendment was quite some years ago now. They were very advanced on this, and they have been sort of far ahead of many other countries in saying they want the investment to come to Singapore. So I think that's a really interesting example to show how copyright law influences that. Next slide, please. There are a number of different copyright questions. Who owns AI-generated content? Most laws still say it's a person. There's no clarity yet on whether prompting is enough to be creation of a copyright work. We've talked about LLM training. So there's a number of areas about the creation of copyright that need to be figured out. And now, most of the laws in Asia still require human authors. So there's a great big question in Southeast Asia, in Indonesia, and many countries, who owns copyright in works created using AI? Next slide, please. Let me give you a few case examples to show what's happening, at least in the Asian region. We haven't seen any cases in Southeast Asia yet. I can give you some examples in India. A number of publishers have sued ChatGPT over the issue about large language model training and the use of data scraped from the internet, summaries of publications and so on, because publishing businesses need to license their content, and they claim that this is interfering with that, and that court case has just been started, so that will happen over the coming year. There are two different issues. One is LLM training, but secondly, output. So when the content from the AI is generated, whether that reproduces the copyright work as well. So that's one example. Next slide, please. And then a number from China. I won't go into detail on these, but there are quite a number of cases in China on copyright creation, whether AI content is copyright protectable, the conflicts with trade secrets, conflicts with personal data privacy rules as well. So there's quite a number of cases there establishing, particularly that AI content is a copyright work, and that's something that's quite well established. Because China really is an enormous country with many courts, you'll see a lot of legal developments coming out of China. Next slide, please. So, law changes will likely follow all of the AI policy publications. We haven't seen any cases yet, but in common law countries, particularly Singapore, Malaysia, we will be able to look to other countries like Australia or the UK, and that might help see how cases will be implemented there. And in the civil law countries, we need to see some laws in place to see how this is going to play out. ASEAN is going to provide some input on this, and I'm sure we need to keep an eye on what they say and how they develop harmonization policies. And then the cases around the world, in US, in India, because the major markets where AI is being developed will probably settle those cases. It's worth keeping an eye on how that starts to play out in the courts, and how the law on reproduction of content for LLM training, how all of these things play out. How, for example, the creation of AI content and the use of prompts, how that will enable governments to understand how to set laws on who owns copyright in AI creations. Next slide, please. And then you can find more data on IP in Indonesia and beyond on the SME Helpdesk website. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks very much, Nick. I think we are now going into Q&A. So can I request the speakers to all turn on your camera and unmute yourself? And the first question, Secretary, please remind me when the time's up. The first question is quite interesting, but unfortunately, it's from an anonymous person. So the question is directed at Pak Wahyudi. The question goes like this: looking at the recent regulations on AI, the EU and other pioneers in the AI industry, such as Japan, Singapore, and the US, which would be the appropriate benchmark that Indonesia should look at to regulate AI domestically? And how would this relate to the recent development in personal data protection, i.e. the PDP law? Wahyudi.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So after the EU pace of the AI Act, South Korea became the second country in the world and the first in Asia to pace an AI law. So if we follow the debate and substance of the basic AI law in South Korea, the contents also refer to the EU AI Act, especially in the terms of the risk-based approach. So the adopting of the risk-based approach in the substance of the law, this might be because the EU AI Act provides a reference and makes more details categorization in the regulations. It is also like of the GDPR. In other regions, if we read the Brazil's AI bill, it is still discussing in the Parliament of Brazil. The substance also refers a lot to the EU IA Act, including in the adopting of the categorization of the risk, the adoption of the risk base, in the categorizing of the responsibles of the actors in the development and deployer of AI. So in Indonesian's context, is we compare the substance of the Personal Data Protection Law 2022, which also adopts to the EU GDPR. In my observation, I think more than 70% of the materials and the substance of the Indonesian data protection law, it is also adopted to the EU GDPR. So then based on the experience of the process of the development of the Indonesian data protection law, maybe Indonesia also can adopt and reverse to the EU AI Act. Of course, with some simplifications, considering that Indonesia regulatory models is more generalist compared to the EU. EU more details, more explain about each of the substance and the materials of the regulation. So I think it is the consideration why Indonesia can also reverse to the EU AI Act in the process of the development of the EU law in here. And we still waiting the process of the implementation of the compliance of the data protection law as a basis to development of the new regulation to response of the use of AI in here. Because we thought the good practice and experience in the implementation of the data protection law and regulation, including the cybersecurity as a pillars, we cannot develop the owns of the AI Act in here with a proper and the good of the content of the regulation. So I think in my views, Pak Kin, over to you. Still mute, Pak Kin.
I think so. So following up on that question is this: that there's a tension between the two. On the one end is a voluntary basis, such as Singapore, where they come up with a governance framework that is recommended for AI developers to follow. I mean, such as Singapore, where they're attracting a lot of investment. So I think that is a AI and data center sort of friendly environment because they want to attract investment. And then you got this one where there's a framework where they try to strike a balance where they try to regulate but not to chase the AI developers away. So between these two end of the spectrum, I mean, what do you think is the most ideal if Indonesia is looking at attracting investment into the country? I mean, obviously, as a data center and as an AI developer, you want to have as much freedom as possible, but there's also the tension to protect the users and the public. So you got these two tensions.
Is it to me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So until now, the government still debating about the regulations and the governance of the classification of the data. It is as pillars in the development of the regulations on the data governance, especially the public data provided and managed by the government institutions, because in the last of the incidents of the breach of the national data centers, we try to considering the situations about the strong regulations and the governance of the data. In another side, we still struggling to implementing of the personal data protection law, because we still discussing about the implementing regulation of the data protections, including we still discussing of the process of the establishment of the data protection authority under the government. So it is in the one side, and the another side how to handling of the public data, especially the data managed by the government institution. It is also the issue, and we need to the process of the reform of the regulations, especially the GG 71 2019, because it is the the measures of the reference about the categorization and the classification of data in Indonesia, including the issue of the data exchange, data flows, and also the development of the data center. So yeah, we still need of more time to discussing and debating about it. And I think the current governments with the limited situation with the efficiency of the budgets, still struggling to house the developing of the models of the infrastructure and the investment regarding of the data, how the differentiating between the local company and the multinational company in handling of the development of the infrastructure of the data in here. So yeah, we have so many homework to finalizing all of the process of the implementing of the regulation, also the development and the preparing of the process of the development new regulation to response of the AI.
Thanks for that. Sorry, maybe trouble with my camera. Just a second. So the next question actually is a follow-on from the previous question, and it's directed at all the speakers. So the question goes like this: EU had a head start in regulating AI on a regional basis, and so the question is, in your opinion, looking at the development in the regions, would it be preferable to have an ASEAN framework on regulating AI? And how do you see AI regulation in Southeast Asia having an impact on the development of ASEAN's digital economy framework agreement? Maybe I can invite Nick to answer the question first.
Thanks, Kinwar. I think I would look even further ahead. ASEAN has got this 2047 vision, so it's planning decades out. And if you work back from that, how does ASEAN get to be a leader in AI? Yes, it will need to think about things at a regional level. When I talk about LLM training, it's not the case, despite how Singapore framed its laws, which was very, as I say, a very smart way to encourage investment. It is simply not the case that you train an LLM in one country with only the content created in that country. It is done globally. So you really have to take a global approach to this, or a regional approach to this, to get ahead. If you try and have one country try to, on its own, become an AI leader, I think it would be difficult. So yeah, my suggestion would be to work as a regional level with ASEAN to try to develop the whole region.
Thanks, Nick. Dr. Tan, maybe you can add on to any points you have.
Yeah, I think I just want to echo what Nick just mentioned, because from our past experience, especially in industry setting, helping clients to address some of the practical issues, and the thing is actually easily span across the whole region. It will never restrict to one country, right? Especially if we look into a value chain, for example, it often span across multiple countries, and therefore it is always important for us to take a more holistic view, and especially when we come into things like AI and also some of the uncharted area. So definitely a regional approach will be something that from our opinions that this is something to go after.
Thanks, Dr. Tan. I think it'd be a good time to share the screen. Nadira, can you load the screen? The next slide, please. I think your point is spot on. It's a regional basis, and what we have here is the triangle, but Johor, Singapore, and Batam. It started with Singapore, where there's a spillover of AI of data centers, because data centers are really the engine for AI development. and then because of that, they spill over into Johor and then into Batam. So it's a development at the regional level. And then there's this very interesting comment from the Indonesian minister where he said, yeah, they probably prefer Johor because of the legal certainty. So just wondering what your views are on that. Maybe we can start with Pak Wahyudi.
Yeah, so after the incident of the breach of the national data centers, the government still under the Jokowi administrative tried to change the policy, including the simplifying of the data center investments in Indonesia. But yeah, I think the new government, new elected governments, they are what is changing also the priority, the development of the infrastructure of the data centers, because until now we don't have of the specific of the plan about the continuing process of the development of the infrastructure of the data center, including in Batam, Cikarang, also in new Indonesian's capital city in Kalimantan. Yeah, because the government, I think, still continuing the process of the finalizing of the development and establishment of the data center in Batam. Also try to change of the form and the models of the regulations of the data centers in here. So we still need of the a launch of the national mid development plan from the government as a guidelines of the process of the development of the data centers as a basic of the development of AI, including in the process of the formulations of the new presidential regulation on the electronic based government systems. Because if we discussing about the development of the data centers, the infrastructure of the data in here, it is part of the mandate of the development of the electronic-based government systems. So the electronic-based government systems regulation, it is expired on 2024. So we need of the new guidelines to the next process of the development in here. But in the ASEAN level, I think it is also the period to what is compete, including in the development of the technology and also the regulation, the governance. But I think reverse to the ASEAN guidance on AI, including the additional guidance on the generative AI, the ASEAN countries can work together to give the response of the developments of the technology, including in the process of the development of the regulation. So yeah, I think it is my views on the question.
Right. Can you go back to the slide, please? So Dr. Tan, still on this point, you got these three regions, Singapore, Batam, and Johor. So from your experience, maybe you can do a quick comparative in terms of sustainability, the legal framework for sustainability. What do you see? Maybe you can give some comment there in terms of legal framework on the point of sustainability. What did you have? Can you give us a quick overview on these three regions?
Well, I think one of the clear implications, especially when we look about like comparing cross regions, country, and things like this. I think for example, right, different country may have different carbon tax rate, right? So then when you have these transactional thing going on, through these three countries, then what are the best mechanisms, right? Mechanisms, and also what are the processes that support behind all these things. So I think that normally when we talk about sustainability, especially that involving multiple countries, it ought to take a more structured approach. So normally, like for example, when we implement any technology or deploy any technology, our approach is always, start small, then, probably start from one country so that you minimize the complexity. And then while we are scaling up, looking into what are the implications, right? And bringing all these different factors into the equations. And that will be some things that, normally what we do, especially really to dissect the things into something that is more chewable, right? Something that's more easily digestible. That is what we do normally. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. So I think that hopefully answered the question about how you navigate compliance across the regions. Is there any more question, Daniel? Maybe we can go to the next slide. The next one, please. So I hope this is not too challenging or is not too naughty. So again, when it comes to AI, there's always a tension between the AI developer and the content owner, the copyright holder. I mean, what's good for one may not be good for the other. So well, if you have a country where is beneficial for AI developer, then may not be so good for the content owner. So it's always a tension. So like you saw just now, well, this minister said that Malaysia and Singapore has more legal certainty. Then, so the question is whether legal certainty favors AI developer or favors content owner when they want to enforce their rights, because it can't be good for both. So maybe Nick, you have some views there.
Well, yes, I think you're right to say that there are. I think AI training is the big topic at the moment. It's not the only issue, but yes, if we're talking about where we develop AI tools, I think it's quite difficult to say that this is going to be developed in one country alone. That's probably not going to be the case. So unless the whole region adopts a similar process, there are going to be different rules in different countries. At the moment, Singapore has an exception, but in other countries, frankly, it's likely to be decided to be infringement. So, that would be the case in Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, a number of countries. I think we also have to look at, once you start talking about these kind of disputes, you have to look at court systems. AI issues are going to be highly technical and complicated. Countries with specialist courts.
So Nick, I interject you a bit. So in the case of the court system, actually, as a plaintiff, when you sue Indonesia, it is very hard to sue because you got no discovery. It's very hard to prove infringement. So from the content owner's perspective, the law is there, but if I'm trying to enforce, so maybe it's not so bad for the data centers then, because it's very hard to touch them if they base it in Indonesia.
And in any civil law country, so Thailand, Philippines, Vietnam also have the same issue. So yes, you're right. If you can't get access to exactly how the AI was trained, then it might be difficult to get the proof that the copyright infringement took place. However, the outputs can often show that. That is one of the issues that's coming up in these cases. These cases are not only about how did the LLM get trained. A number of them are the outputs are essentially argued to be reproductions, and you can see a comedian's jokes, a publisher's works actually in the outputs. And so it's not always as simple as just looking at one part of it. So I think looking at the different court systems is important. The technical nature of these mean that courts need to be much more sophisticated, and using the general courts in Indonesia, the district courts, or in the general courts of other countries, probably not the right place. And countries need to think about making sure that these go into specialist courts with judges that understand the technology.
Thanks, Nick. Dr. Guan, Dr. Tan, do you have any points to supplement, especially when you gather all this data for your training your models? What sort of issues do you face, and maybe you can share some of the best practices on how you navigate those legal issues as you collect those data from your customers.
Yeah, I think when in a nutshell is really how we navigate the intellectual property and also intellectual property rights and also the reliability, right, the landscapes. And I want to go back to what Sander mentioned just now, in the one of the keynotes, right? Like for example, the EU AI Act. The reason of enactments of that is really to build trust, right, and to protect people and also allow innovations. So when these three elements align, you're actually gaining this, not only the trust but also bringing a positive mechanism, right, the dynamics into the equation, so that with more certainty, right, especially like what you mentioned here, the legal certainties, right, that really create a safe haven, right, or kind of like common ground that we can bring both sides, right, the content creator and also the AI developer together to really look into this and how to address. And same thing, right? For example, quite often when we come into AI deployments, the first thing came out, right after the business case and all these things are data security, right? And nobody want to send your data, especially some sensitive data, across the border. So how you strike the balance, right, between the locals and also, say for example, if you need to leverage some computing powers, right, from another part of the world. So that is always, come back to the trust issue, come back to now, do I have a proper legal framework that allow us to like kind of collaborate and also like push the boundary together? So now from my perspective, legal certainty that definitely favor both, right? The content creator and also AI developer. It does not necessarily means zero-sum game. Thank you, Keynote.
Thanks very much. Thanks. You're right. It's not a zero-sum game. Someone for better end of the stick. I think that's all from for this session. So I'll hand it back to the organizer. Thank you very much, the three of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you to the speakers and Kinwar for guiding us through such a thought-provoking discussion and interactive Q&A session. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the formal agenda for EuroCham's webinar in collaboration with the Southeast Asia IP SME Helpdesk. Before we officially close, it is my pleasure to invite Mr. Edison Bako, Executive Director of EuroCham Indonesia, to deliver the closing remarks. Mr. Edison, the screen is yours.
Okay. All right. Friends, partners of EuroCham Indonesia and the EU SME Helpdesk. First of all, as we come to the close of today's insightful discussion on artificial intelligence and innovation, harmonizing global and local perspectives, on behalf of EuroCham Indonesia, we would like to express our sincere gratitude, in particular to the keynote speakers from the Ministry of Communications and Digital Affairs, as well as the EU Delegation to Indonesia and ASEAN. In addition to that, we would like to also express our gratitude to all the panelists here today, the experts from different fields, for their valuable contributions. Your expertise and insights have made this event truly meaningful and engaging. Throughout today's discussions, we have explored AI's transformative potential, the regulatory challenges it presents, and the importance of fostering an ecosystem that balances innovation, ethics, and compliance. The exchange of ideas today has underscored the need for a harmonized approach to AI governance, ensuring that technology enables progress while safeguarding ethical and legal principles. The webinar today helped us gain a deeper understanding of how Indonesia and the EU can collaborate to shape AI policies that support economic growth and responsible technological development. It provided insights into AI policy, intellectual property, and cross-border collaboration. As AI continues to evolve, collaboration between the public and private sector is essential to unlocking its full potential while addressing concerns related to data privacy, security, and fairness. We would remain committed to facilitating meaningful dialogues that strengthen cooperation so that AI development aligns with both global best practices and national priorities. Also, we'd like to express our gratitude to Jorgen Fjellin and Kinwa of the ICTIP EuroCham Working Group for the initiative to organize this event, as well as the Southeast Asia IP SME Helpdesk for collaborating to create a relevant discussion forum. Once again, we sincerely appreciate all the participants for your participation and engagement, and we look forward to continuing this important conversation and collaboration to navigate the future of AI innovation and policy. Thank you, and we hope to see you again at our future discussions. Back to you, Max.
Thank you, Mr. Edison, for your thoughtful closing remarks. This concludes today's webinar event. On behalf of EuroCham and the Southeast Asia IP SME Helpdesk, I would like to express our deepest gratitude to all the speakers, panelists, and participants who made today's event a success. Thank you once again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you at the EuroCham events. Have a wonderful day.